Welcome back to State of Texas in Depth. Ahead of the March primary, we're profiling the candidates for Texas Lieutenant Governor. This week, one of the Republicans vying for that post, current Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst. He faces three opponents in the primary, one of the most contentious races statewide this election season. KXAN's Robert Hadlock sat down with Dewhurst here in the studio.
Why do you want to run for re-election?
Well, I'm running for re-election because Texas is at a crossroads. We're growing some 1,200 people a day. Over the next 50 years, we're going to grow from 26 million today to almost 50 million people. And if we don't keep growing this state, making it stronger, so I'm running for re-election because we're at a crossroads, because we're doing well, and I want to make sure Texas stays well. I want to keep Texas conservative. I want to, frankly, keep it Republican, but I want to keep it growing, and I want to keep Texas #1 in jobs and #1 in opportunity. Because if we don't keep strengthening our state, it's going to start to slide. And we've seen this happen in other states. And I don't want to see that happen because our unemployment goes up, our revenues go down, and that means less opportunity, not only for ourselves, but for our children. And I am not going to permit that.
What are some of the ways Texas could improve and how state government can react to that?
I believe that the best growth is through, in your economy, is through growing your economy, not taxing. And so what I've tried to do over the last almost 10 years is protect Texans' liberties and freedoms, because without liberty and freedom, you're not going to have opportunity. Keep our spending low, fund our essential priorities, but keep our spending low. Make Texas irresistible from an investor point of view. And that's why I've cut taxes some 54 times. And have a light regulatory hand, because we've seen from Washington that a heavy regulatory hand kills jobs.
Your opponents have criticized you for not doing enough to protect our border. How would you respond to that?
It sounds like it's defense on their part. Quite frankly, I've been leading on our border since day one. For the first 4 or 5 years, I really just hammered away at Washington, hammered away, asking to triple the size of our Border Patrol because we don't have enough. Several years ago, I realized Washington is not taking securing our borders seriously. And so in 2007, I started with a new initiative. Got the governor, the speaker on board, and since 2008, we've invested almost $800 million of Texas tax money into our southern border. Over time, with the sheriff's departments buying high-altitude spotter aircraft with X-ray to see at night, with infrared to see at night, fleet of helicopters with infrared to see at night, armor-plated gunboats to go on the Rio Grande, each with 4 30-caliber machine guns to make a presence known, to send a signal. We're serious about this. In September, we put the pedal to the metal, and we did a test. We ran a surge operation for 3 weeks, from September 15th through about October 8th. And we proved empirically that with the surge operation, we can shut down the border from the Gulf of Mexico at Brownsville to Laredo. And I want to do that for the whole border.
Texans in the last election approved a water measure to spend, I think it's $2 billion on water programs across the state. What do you think you can do going forward to assure that Texans have a great water supply for the next 100 years?
Well, and I think that's a very important goal. That's why I've been working on water policy since the day I got into the legislature. That's why I passed bills years ago, Senate Bill 3, to set aside the footprint for 19 different reservoirs in the state. That's why last summer, in the summer of 2012, I started talking about taking money out of the rainy day fund and putting it into infrastructure on water. Because if we don't have enough water, we're going to all shut down. This is a bill that sets 3 commissioners over the Texas Water Development Board, 1 from rural Texas, to implement a plan to double our water supplies over the next 50 years. Now that cost $50 billion. But by limiting, as I insisted, our lending to just construction, 3, 4, 5 years. We can lend, be repaid with interest, lend, repaid with interest, so we can build those projects that are necessary, not just in the next 50 years, but in the next 100 years.
A huge problem we've all talked about for many years, traffic across Texas.
Right.
Are we going to see more toll roads? Are you for that? What are you going to do to improve the traffic in Texas?
Well, one of the initiatives that I worked on and I helped lead on this past year in the session, in the 2013 session, was to set aside half of our severance tax revenues for new construction, provided that we maintain at least a minimum robust balance in our rainy day fund. So I think that's going to be important. That's going to be in the ballot in November of this year, 2014. But we've got to stop doing what we've been doing. You know, if you always do what you've always done, you're always going to get what you've always gotten. And we're spending way too much money on maintenance because we're tearing up our highways. When I came into session in January 2013, we had a $1.5 billion bill from the counties that comprise the Eagle Ford Shale because overweight trucks were tearing up their county roads. We got to stop that practice and protect the investment so that our investment lasts longer. And we're not spending the vast majority of our TxDOT dollar on maintenance, but on building new roads.
Your critics have kind of blasted you for the handling of the Wendy Davis filibuster back in the summertime, accusing you of not keeping your eye on the ball. How do you respond to those claims?
Revisionist thinking. Quite frankly, all three of my opponents, they're longtime friends of mine, but just in 2012, they were all endorsing me as a strong conservative leader. I asked the House to send us back the pro-life bill by the Sunday at noon before that Tuesday on June 23rd. And we didn't get it till June 24th. And I said publicly, please don't send it back any later than noon on the 23rd, because otherwise we'll be in filibuster range. And sure enough, we were. But I got all of our senators together that morning, that last day of the session, and said, we got two choices, to take up the pro-life bill or not. I'm for taking it up, because we have no assurance that the governor will call us back in. And several senators had talked to the governor and or his office and said that was the fact. And I said, we got two choices, to either just surrender forever your right to filibuster, or to keep that right, so we have to break the filibuster. They wanted the latter. That's what I wanted to do. So we broke the filibuster in 11 straight hours.
Wait.
At the end of the day, look, at the end of the day, it's the scoreboard. I'm a career business person. I'm all about results. We passed the bill. Scoreboard, 0 Wendy Davis, 1 protecting women's health and the rights of the unborn.
How's your relationship now with Senator Ted Cruz?
Oh, good. I mean, we've been friends for a long time. Friends when he was in the AG's office. After he left the AG's office, I hired him to do some legal work for us. As far as I know, a good, warm relationship. After the runoff in 2012, I endorsed him, I campaigned for him, I campaigned with him, I hosted fundraisers for him. So,
are you surprised that he is followed so closely by the Tea Party conservatives across the country?
No, not a bit. I think that the Tea Party conservatives challenge, and I think this is, as a businessman, this is what you have to do. If you challenge your assumptions, and they're willing to challenge different assumptions, they want to make sure that our federal government stays as conservative as possible. I submit more like Texas. And so, as a result, no, I'm not a bit surprised. And I appreciate Senator Cruz standing up for the values that the majority of us in Texas support.
How long do you think Texas will be a Republican stronghold?
Texas will remain a Republican stronghold as long as all of us get out and work hard and remind the people who live here in Texas and the 1,200 people a day who are coming to Texas that we appreciate, and the people coming to Texas are coming here for opportunity. And you can't have opportunity without pursuing conservative principles and having a pro-growth agenda for your economy and creating opportunities for all of our children. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you Dad died when I was 3 years old. Mom worked as a secretary. I worked my way through high school and college without opportunity in Texas when I was growing up, and I want to make sure that opportunity stays alive for generations to come.
Last week, I went one-on-one with Ag Commissioner Todd Staples, and you can view that full interview online at KXAN.com. Just search for the link in the story about today's program. Over the next 3 Sunday mornings, we will profile a different lieutenant governor candidate. We first work our way through the rest of the Republicans. Next week, we have Land Commissioner Jerry Patterson. On February 23rd, Senator Dan Patrick joins us on set. And on March 2nd, we will speak with Democratic Senator Leticia Vandepute. And just a few days after that, on March 4th, Texans will head to the polls, the primary election, where we'll have complete coverage right here on KXAN News and online at KXAN.com. Thanks for watching State of Texas in depth. Join us every Sunday morning at 8:30. NBC's Meet the Press is coming up in just a few minutes here on KXAN.